All right, so Joe Manchin, who apparently remains to be the most powerful person in the country, is trying to throw his weight around again, and this time it is on Joe Biden's infrastructure plan, specifically on the tax portion of Joe Biden's infrastructure plan, which Biden is using to pay for his infrastructure plan, even though that's not really how our government spending works. It's not the fact that your tax dollars go directly towards spending on issues like infrastructure. That's not how government spending works, but we can talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Let's just go ahead and hear what Joe Manchin has to say about Biden's measly proposal to raise the corporate tax from 21% up to 28%, which is really only halfway towards where it was pre-Trump. Trump cut the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. Biden wants to raise it back up to 28%. Manchin has a problem with this. So in an appearance on a local radio show Monday, Manchin said he and 6 or 7 other Senate Democrats feel very strongly about reducing the corporate tax rate proposed in President Joseph Robinette Biden's opening infrastructure bid from 28% to 25%, up from the current 21%. So he wants to set it. In other words, he has 3% disagreement with Joe Biden. Where is he getting that from? I don't fucking know. I don't think that it's really about the actual taxes, but we'll talk about that in a second. He says, quote, if I don't vote on it, it's not going anywhere. So we're going to have some leverage here, Manchin said Monday, parroting right-wing talking points on the supposedly counterproductive effects of higher corporate taxes. The West Virginia Democrat added, quote, we have to be competitive and we're not going to throw caution to the wind. So let's be clear about something. Joe Manchin is not doing this because he represents some conservative West Virginia constituency. He's doing this because he's corrupt, okay? And he's also doing this, if you look at the language that he was just using in this statement, he's doing this because he wants to throw his weight around. He's doing this because he can. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that he actually has a problem or a principled stance against a 28% specifically corporate tax rate. And why do I know that? Well, I know that because Joe Manchin himself actually supported a 28% corporate tax rate. In 2012, Manchin supported Obama's plan to drop the corporate tax rate from 35 to 28%. In 2021, somehow 28% is too high now. So Joe Manchin himself actually previously has supported a 28% corporate tax rate. So for him to just come out and split the difference, it really is more so about him throwing his weight around, proving that he is this powerful center of the Senate. And it's more about him throwing his weight around than it is about having a principled stance on 25% versus 28%. That's absolutely clear. But credit to Joe Biden here a little bit. Responding to Joe Manchin's rhetoric on this. So speaking to the press Monday afternoon, Biden dismissed the notion that raising the corporate tax rate would harm the U.S. economy. Quote, there's no evidence of that, the president said. You have 51 or 52 corporations of the Fortune 500 that haven't paid a single penny in taxes for 3 years. Come on, man, let's get real. So yeah, classic Joe Biden phrasing there, but he's right. He is right. So 51 or 52, we just had this recent story that came out. Basically, a lot of the Fortune 500 companies, a lot of the wealthiest corporations, the most profitable corporations in our country are not paying any corporate taxes. And so, you know, there is an argument to be had there of saying, does it even really make sense to raise the corporate tax rate if corporations are still not going to pay that rate? Raising the corporate tax rate while corporations are avoiding those taxes doesn't really change the situation. But that's why you would have to do that as well. You would have to close all of these tax loopholes and actually force them to pay an effective rate that is what the rate is actually supposed to or intended to be. So it is a multifaceted approach here that you have to take with taxes. But again, it is important, okay, that we understand that these taxes that Joe Biden is proposing should not be how we calculate how much we're going to spend on this infrastructure plan. That is the biggest thing that I've seen that is a problem in the conversation or the debate around this infrastructure package. You don't need to tax this X amount of money in order to spend X amount of money. We can just spend $10 trillion, as the Sunrise Movement wants to, over the next 10 years, $1 trillion a year. We can just spend that on infrastructure and it will pay for itself down the line as an investment, because when you spend money on infrastructure, it expands the ability of your economy to function, right? None of these Fortune 500 companies that Joe Biden is referring to would be Fortune 500 companies if it wasn't for American infrastructure allowing them to use the roads and the planes and the UPS and all of these other, the United States Postal Service and all of these other things, the infrastructure that we have built in this country that allows them to be successful. So investing in these things is not going to create a debt. It is an investment that will directly have a material benefit and pay for itself down the line through economic expansion. inflation. So that's the important difference in the mindset of how this has been being talked in the media and how Joe Biden is referring to these taxes. It's good to tax the rich because, yes, they are avoiding taxes. Yes, they are not paying high enough taxes, but it's not because we need that money to spend on infrastructure. And if we use that mindset that Joe Biden is trying to push, it's going to severely restrict how much they're willing to spend on this, because they're going to be thinking, well, we need to tax in order to offset 100% of what we're spending. And that is just not the case. Okay, so as the Daily Poster reported late Monday, Manchin's proposed change would have a huge impact on how the Biden infrastructure plan is paid for, while largely preserving a tax policy that is delivering a disproportionately huge windfall to a tiny handful of executives at major corporations. Obviously talking about the Trump tax cut. We talk about the Ratchet Effect, okay, which is basically, if you don't know what the Ratchet Effect is, when Republicans are in office, they crank that dial all the way to the right. And with policies like Trump's tax cut from 35% to 21%, and then Democrats get in office and they kind of half undo some of the things that Republicans do. And so the net effect of that is we keep moving further and further to the right. That is the Ratchet Effect. And you see it perfectly clear on these tax policies. What the Daily Poster was just referring to is the Trump tax cut, the 2017 tax cut, where 83% or so of the benefits went to the top 1%. It was a tax cut for corporations and billionaires and the wealthy. And guess what? Trickle-down economics is a failed ideology. And all of that money just ended up, as he said, just going to a tiny handful of executives and wealthy corporations who pocketed the cash. And so undoing some of that is a good thing, obviously, but undoing all of that is where we actually need to be going, and then going even a step further. But they continue here. Manchin's move could also particularly benefit private equity firms that have converted from partnership structures to C corporations to take advantage of President Donald Trump's tax law, which dropped the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%, exactly as I was just saying. So, you understand the situation here, right? Joe Manchin is trying to throw his weight around, as he has been doing up until this point, with things like getting the $15 minimum wage taken out of the COVID relief package along with some other Democrats. But you see what he's trying to do here. He is reveling in this power that he has. He is enjoying it. And for him to just split the difference and just come up with a number off the top of his head, 25%. Sorry, I don't support 28%. I actually support 25%, when he previously has supported a 28% rate. He's just playing this game here, okay? He's trying to bring attention to himself. He's trying to get himself some media attention, and he's trying to be this centrist, this principled centrist or something like that. But it's all bullshit, okay? He's doing this for attention. He's doing this because he's corrupt. He's doing this as a way to reach out to his corporate donors. That's why he's doing this, okay? So let's keep the mindset on this, and let's also, in a more important sense, remember the context here, okay? While it is important that we increase taxes on the rich, because they should be paying more relative, we shouldn't have corporations that are paying $0 in taxes. Obviously, let's close the corporate tax rate. Let's close the corporate tax loopholes, and let's increase the tax rate. Yes, but it's also equally as important to not let them hijack this entire conversation and hijack the rhetoric surrounding this infrastructure bill. We don't need to have a one-to-one correlation with how much we're taxing billionaires and corporations versus how much we're spending. We need to go big and bold. $10 trillion is the minimum. $1 trillion a year over the next 10 years. It's about like 5% of our GDP. And that's what we need to seriously address this moment.